This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, 𝗏𝗏. Each week, this show is committed to providing you with retirement planning solutions. We've got another great show for you this weekend. We're going to be diving deeply into all the different types of risks that retirees face. We know, Tom, whenever we talk about risk, the phone always seems to ring. These are things that folks can relate to. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you, as I always am. How are you this week?
I'm doing well, and you're absolutely right. It seems like in life, we magnify the things that go wrong, and that's the reason it seems like there are more of them. But we've got to mitigate against those risks and those things that happen in retirement and happen to us financially. And I'm just in this show, I've gone through and there's probably, I didn't total them up. We have about 10 or 11 categories we may get to. And there's probably 40 different risks or things that could go wrong and have go wrong. I'm going to draw a lot, Kristen, on some of the experiences that I've had and some of the people that we've run into and stories we've heard in the industry of things that just went wrong. Why? If I can help somebody out there, Kristen, not make those mistakes, then that's where we learn,
Yep. No, for sure. We are all about preventative measures here, right?
Yes.
And what do they say? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so it's important to be aware of these things. And Tom, in preparation for our conversation, I pulled up the good old Merriam-Webster dictionary and looked at the definition of risk, because I think sometimes when folks think risk and they think investments, they think of it as very one-dimensional. They might think about the risk of an investment going down, for example, right?
Right.
But the definition of risk embodies so much more than that. It's something that creates or suggests a hazard. And another definition that the dictionary has here is the possibility of loss or injury, synonym peril. And I think that's why it's so important. We can't talk about these enough because there's so many risks that people face, especially today's modern retiree, that previous generations really didn't have to worry about as much. And these wide range of financial risks can really impact someone's long-term security. So that's why we want to get into it. And as you said, provide solutions to prevent these mistakes from happening.
I heard a person on the radio a couple of days ago, and they were talking about not a financial show or anything, but they were just talking about, in fact, it was on a television show. I apologize, it wasn't a radio show, but they were talking about that you didn't have to worry about heart disease if you died in your upper 60s because you didn't live long enough to really worry about it. You didn't have to worry about running out of money when you retired because you didn't live long enough. So there's so many things that other generations have not had to deal with that we have to deal with now because of all the other things that are available. And I think we have to credit some things also, Kristen, to the news, because the news is always there. If the old story is, if 1,000 planes land safely, it's not news. But if one crashes or the engine catches on fire, or like in Toronto, if it flips upside down, then that's major news, And so we're obsessed with watching the news and watching what happens. We're afraid we're going to miss out if we don't watch the news, and we have a lot more fear running around out there about things that could happen.
Yes. And as someone who flies all the time, it's never fun. I feel like sometimes people, they mean well, right? But they'll say, oh, well, did you see what happened in the news about that plane? Right? Yeah. They highlight all the bad things that can go wrong. And I think that's the challenge, right? Is knowing how to navigate through risks successfully. There's a lot of things when it comes to planes I just have to choose not to think about because I fly all the time and I don't want to go there in my mind.
I remember when my daughter Rachel, she's the principal of a school in 𝗿𝗶𝘀𝗸𝘀 now, so she's grown up, okay, and she made it, she survived. But I remember she was learning to ride her bicycle up and down the street, and the guy next to me had this massive pickup truck, and he carried a trailer. He hauled a trailer on the back, so he had this huge trailer hitch, and it did not stick into the sidewalk area. But every time Rachel was riding her bike that way, she so focused on the danger of that trailer hitch that she would run into it every single time.
Oh,
okay,
bless her heart.
Because she was focused on it, and we're not bringing up risk so that you'll focus on them and have the risk and have to suffer the loss and the peril and all of those things. But we're bringing up risk to help you avoid all of those things. So I think it was really fun. I couldn't help but think of that story when you were talking there.
Oh, sweet little Rachel.
Yep.
Yeah, poor thing. Well, all right. So we have this exhaustive list of risks here. We're going to get through as many as we can today. But the first one really, Tom, could be seen as the multiplier, if you will. It's the biggest domino that I think compounds all the other risks we're going to talk about. And so that is longevity and life expectancy risks. You said it so well. This is something previous generations really didn't have to navigate through.
No, but with modern medicine, we're living longer. Look at your parents in most cases. Look at your grandparents in many cases. Grandparents didn't live a lot of times quite as long as your parents did. Your parents are still alive sometimes, and they're still here. They're living a lot longer than they ever intended to live or ever thought they would live. But, they just stay healthy. They stay active. And people, therefore, when it comes to the financial area, and that's what we focus on at Mosley Wealth Management, there's longevity risk. There's that fear of running out of money before you die. It's the number one fear of people who are 55 years of age and older. And I had a list one time of all the people who've done, and the big, powerful companies who've done studies on this. The number one fear of people 55 years of age and over always comes out to be running out of money before you die. Rutgers did a study in 2016. USA Today has done a study. Wall Street Journal has done a study. Kiplinger Magazine has done a study. So many studies have been done, and it keeps pointing back to the same thing over again. There's that longevity risk that the longer you live with not as many pensions that are out there, not as many, pensions have gone down from 63% of the people who were covered by pensions at one point. Now only 16% of the people are covered by pensions.
That's
so you don't have
massive
that
difference. Yeah.
Big difference. It goes from almost 2/3, Kristen, to 1/6 of the people are covered by pensions. So you don't have that guaranteed income every single month like you did with a pension. You hope you do with Social Security. You hope it doesn't get, diminished in 2033 as they've been promising us that it would. So you've got that longevity risk of outliving your savings. It is the number one thing that can drain your lump sum down to zero. And when you get to zero and you're living off the Monte Carlo model that the big box firms use, you are down to zero. You don't have any more money. When you've used all your money in a pension, you still keep getting a paycheck every single month the rest of your life for as long as you live. That's the beauty of it.
Yes. Well, and I think what compounds this longevity and life expectancy risk is the fact that the longer we live, even though that's a blessing, the more likely we are to have healthcare issues and need to spend more money on healthcare costs. There is the issue of long-term care planning, which again is never fun for folks to think about. So many people have insufficiently planned for that. And let's be honest, there was for a long time lifetime long-term care insurance, but it's really not fitting the bill today for most folks. And there's lots of reasons for that. So it's no wonder that this is a huge risk, because the longer we live, the more that we might need to spend. And you don't know how much you're going to have to spend on those two variables until you get there. So planning ahead for that can be really challenging.
Well, Fidelity did a study 2 years ago, and they found out that people who are, if it's a married couple and they're both 65 years of age, there is the average number of dollars that they're going to have to spend from 65 to both of them leave this earth, $318,000 on healthcare. And a single person at 65 is $178,000, a little bit more than half of that, because there's some things that as a single person, you're going to incur those costs where you might be able to share those if you're married. So underestimating healthcare costs, big one. Big thing that people think they have this idea that Medicare is going to cover everything.
Right.
Well, you get to 65 and you get on some kind of prescription drug and you hit that donut hole. And I know it's supposed to be closing and they're supposed to be working on that. But then you also have to pay attention, and they're talking about eliminating some of the benefits of Medicare and Medicaid and those kind of things. And we don't think they will do that. We think they will give us what they promised, but we don't know. And then so many people come in and they think, well, I want to sign up for Medicare because it's going to take care of my long-term care. It does not cover.
Yeah.
And all of these, whether it be outliving your savings, your healthcare costs, your long-term care, those three things, longevity and living longer, puts you under more and more and more of a stress financially. Do you have a financial plan? Do you have not a hope plan in that you hope that your 401k and your IRA will last as long as you do? You hope it won't run out? Is that your plan? Do you hope that your broker is telling you the truth when they tell you that there's, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay, and you're going to be okay until you go in one day and they say, well, maybe you're not okay. And then it's not, you don't have the time. You can't go back to work at 80 or 85 to do that. So what is your plan? Is it written down in a retirement blueprint, is what we call it, where you know where your income, taking into account inflation, your investments, your taxes, your health care, and your legacy are all put together in one written plan? That's what we offer if you call in. Call into one of our people. Come sit down with one of our people. We'll help you develop a written retirement blueprint.
Figuring out how to prepare for these long-term care costs, health care costs in your retirement, and how to mitigate this longevity risk is just one of the many things you're going to be able to talk about when you come in and get your complimentary retirement blueprint. So to claim yours, we invite you to pick up the phone and call 888-930-5609, or you can visit us online at mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. We'll be back with more on today's conversation around risks in retirement and how you can be prepared to navigate through them successfully right after this.
With longer life expectancies, rising healthcare costs, and potential changing tax brackets, we think it's important to have a retirement plan that is tailored to your unique needs and goals. At Mosley Wealth Management, we understand the challenges that today's modern retirees face. That's why our experienced advisors work with you to develop a comprehensive retirement plan that takes into account all of the factors that can potentially impact your financial security in retirement. Call 888-930-5609 for your complimentary and comprehensive retirement blueprint. That's 888-930-5609.
Call the Mosley Wealth Management team at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And today, Tom and I are going through a full list of all the different risks that today's modern retiree is facing, because we want you to be prepared and we want you to be able to successfully navigate through these risks. I know you see this all the time, Tom, and I know that you're going to be sharing more stories throughout today's show. But a lot of times when folks come to you, they've already made some of these these mistakes because they didn't get the proper help and planning earlier on in the retirement planning process. That's really what you want to try to help avoid for folks, right?
No, absolutely. It's better instead of repairing something if you can just put it out there correctly the first time.
Yes.
And instead of trying to recover, because in financial planning you're trying to recover dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And in trying to recover dollars, the difficult thing, if you've made a mistake when you first start your financial planning for retirement, if you make a big mistake right out of the box, you've got recovery. And what does that recovery mean? Does it mean going back to work? Does it mean not spending money in the first few years of your retirement, which we call physically the go-go years, when you're able to go and you're able to do and you're able to spend money? But if you've blown it because you've made a mistake in those first few years and you finally do recover and voila, you wake up and you're 75 years old and you've got some physical ailments that prohibit you from the go-go years because you're already in the slow-go years. So yeah, it's like, why get out of the box and stumble? I think of a horse race. We're about to come up on the Triple Crown, and I love to see the horses race, but very, very seldom does a horse stumble out of the gates and end up winning. They talk about the miraculous catch-up and the miraculous comeback, but it's usually not a miraculous comeback to a win, because once you stumble out of the gates, you have to spend a lot of energy to catch up. That's not just in horse racing, that's also in financial planning for retirement. So what we encourage you to do, some of you are sitting out there and in your mind right now, you're thinking, wow, when I get to retirement, I sure want to get a plan together. Why not now? Why not put that plan together now so that you're ready, so that you're practiced, so that you're prepared, so that you don't stumble? Here's one thing to think about too. We're not going to talk about this, but here's a risk that you run. You run the risk of planning on retiring in 3 years and something happening next month that makes you retire now.
Right.
You might go in and be laid off. You might go to the doctor and be laid up. Okay. And so there's all kind of things that cause you to need that retirement plan in place sooner rather than later. Don't run that risk. We're not even going to talk about that risk today. Get a plan in place. That's what we offer, a retirement blueprint.
And the sooner you start, the easier it can be for you. So we encourage you to reach out. All you have to do is call the number to schedule your time to come in and receive your very own complimentary retirement blueprint from Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. The team will put a plan in your hands, but you have to pick up the phone and call, and that number is 888-930-5609. Well, Tom, you were just talking about recovering dollars, and that is a perfect segue into the next risk we want to talk about. And as I said at the top of today's show, this is often, I think, what most folks think about when they hear this term risk as it relates to financial and retirement planning. That is investment and market risks. And gosh, there's so much we could get into here, but I know there's some key things you want to highlight regarding specifically this risk for today's retirees.
Well, I'm talking to people who particularly are just keeping all their money in the market. And I know why you do that. You do that because for 40 years that worked. You put all your money in your 401k. It was invested in the market. It grew over a period of time. It grew as you left it in there and the market came back. It grew as you left it in there and contributed to it every single paycheck. Yes, it grew. But the market downturns in retirement are going to affect you entirely different. You're going to have what's called in our industry, and I'm not trying to get technical here, but the sequence of returns risk. That means what happens to your portfolio the first year, 2, 3, 4 years out of the box, the stumbling out of the box type effect that we talked about earlier. What happens to your portfolio? And in our 4-hour masterclass, that's actually like a 3-hour masterclass we hold, and you can go to our website, Mosley Wealth Management. You can attend one of those for absolutely free, but we show you what sequence of risk can do to you. We show you that if you take the Monte Carlo model that almost every single major big box firm uses, and you take $1 million, which is a target that a lot of people have. You take 4% a year out, that's $40,000 the first year, but you index that 3% for inflation. So we're being true to the Monte Carlo model. If you retire in that scenario, $1 million, 4% out, 3% up for inflation every year. If you started in 1996, man, you are flying high, because for the next 4 years, the market took off with the dot-com boom. But if you waited until 1999 and you said, well, I've got a friend who did that 3 years ago, I'm going to do the exact same Monte Carlo model, $1 million saved, taking out 4% the first year, upping it 3% per year of that $40,000 that you took out the first year. By 2018, you're out of money because you hit the sequence wrong. Now, I said that the right way, and I'll show you the numbers by investing in the market. And some of you are following that same path. I'm not saying it's always going to fail, but I am saying there is a probability of a certain percentage that you're going to fail because you hit the sequence the wrong way.
Yes, there's a risk there. That's the reality, right?
Is.
Yep.
And break that down, Kristen, to 3% for inflation each year. What happens if, like 3 years ago, when we had 8.7 reported inflation? Well, that's almost 3 times the inflation in just 1 year. So those are the kind of things that hit you. What happens if you're banking on safe money in the bank? Because, you know, it's up there a little bit now because the interest rates are higher. But what happens if we go through a low interest rate environment?
Yep.
And what happens when you lock that money into a CD and you've got to stay in that CD, or there's a substantial penalty if you pull out early? What happens if the rates go back up and you're locked into a 3% CD? So the market can be very good for you over a period of time, but the market, because of downturns and inflation and a low interest rate environment and liquidity risk and a lot of other things, the market can also bite you. So be very, very careful and don't get your fingers bit off or even your arm sometimes because you're invested the wrong way. Be careful investing the same way during the accumulation phase of 25 to 65. That same investment way many times will not work for you from 65 to 95.
Oh, so well said, Tom. And that's so true. So I would love to make this really practical for our listeners. And can you walk us through what the solution is when you're building a retirement blueprint for someone? How do you help folks successfully navigate this whole issue when it comes to investment risk, market risk, and sequence of returns risk? What's the solution to this problem?
Well, when you're 25 to 65, hopefully during that time, all of that time period, maybe a few times you were without, but you had a job, you had an income, you had a paycheck that was coming in that was paying the regular bills, and out of that paycheck, you were saving a little bit for retirement. That's the dream. That's what many of you have experienced. But when you turn 65, let's say you retire at 65, you walk out that door of your company, the one thing you do not have, and it's the one thing that many of you are fearful over because you're afraid to walk away from that paycheck. Because you are, as I've said many times, self-employed, living off of the lump sum that you've built up. And you no longer have a paycheck. You just go to that lump sum on a periodic basis and take a withdrawal. You take a draw on that lump sum, and you're living on a hope strategy. You hope that that lump sum will work for you for the rest of your life. Earlier, I mentioned pensions. Pensions, you know, I wish that they would just call them all this, and they would call them a company pension or a private pension, but a pension is simply an annuity. And I know some of you have been taught and conditioned to not like an annuity, but there's no other vehicle, let's be clear, that will ensure your income for the rest of your life, that will give you a guaranteed payout for the rest of your life, even after you run out of money, except for a private pension annuity. All right. And if you put enough money into that once and for all, put it out of your lump sum. Take that money. Last week, we had a couple. They needed a $300,000 deposit into an annuity, and they had their income set for as long as either one of them were on the face of this earth.
Mm-hmm.
You insure your life. You insure your home. You insure your car. You insure your health. You insure your long-term care. Why in the world would you not speak with someone who can help you insure your income so that these investment and market risks that you're still going to take with the majority of your money that's left in the market, in investments, that's your play check. That's your go have fun check. But your paycheck, your guaranteed income is moved over into an annuity so you never have to worry about having sufficient income for the rest of your life. And as long as a spouse would outlive you if you're married, you will have income for the rest of your life. But you can't have that with the Monte Carlo model. You can only have that with a paycheck, play check, retirement blueprint. That's what we offer.
Yes. And this is why you are so passionate about helping structure people's incomes for retirement. We say this on the show all the time. Success in retirement is not about your lump sum. It's about your income. And if you want to be confident to know that you have enough income to last you throughout the rest of your life, no matter what the stock market may or may not do, this is why we encourage you to reach out and claim your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. That number to call to schedule yours is 888-930-5609. We'll be back with more right after this.
With today's rising interest rate environment, have you considered refinancing your retirement? When interest rates go low, you might be able to refinance your homes, your car loans, and even your credit card rates because it could help you keep more of your own money each month. When interest rates go up, it may make sense to refinance your retirement. Higher interest rates could provide income opportunities that you may not be aware of. What works for your portfolio during low interest rate environments may not work for you in a high interest rate environment. So find out if a retirement refi could work better for you. Don't look down at today's higher interest rates. Find out if a retirement refi could work for you. Call Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management at 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. With rising interest rates, it might be time for you to refi your retirement.
Call Mosley Wealth Management for your own complimentary retirement blueprint and written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back, Southern California. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the founder and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And Tom, I know it's been a while since we brought this up, but one of the things I think it's so important for our listeners to know how accessible you are throughout Southern California. Why don't you just remind everyone where all you're located?
Well, we have a beautiful office down in San Diego. We're just expanded from a 700 square foot office to a almost 3,000 square foot office there, Scripps Ranch, the Carroll Canyon exit off the 15 freeway. Out in Ontario, we've got a beautiful office there right off of Haven on Inland Empire Boulevard. In Arcadia, we are just off of the 210 freeway at Huntington Drive in a Wells Fargo building there. In Encino, we're just north on Balboa Boulevard from the 101. I'm trying to get all of these out. Right? Yes, and we're about 1.5 miles, 2 miles north of the 101 up there. Our main office has always been right here in Anaheim. Out one of my windows, I can see Anaheim Stadium across the street on Catella. We're at 2401 East Catella, and behind my office out the back window, I can look through. I used to be able to see the Honda Center, but now I can see the parking structure as they're building the OC Vibe, and they're going to build that entertainment complex that's going to be just fabulous. That's right there, right off the 57 freeway at Catella. So we are accessible. You say, well, it's a little bit of drive for me. We're trying, okay? We're going to have offices in West LA by the end of this year and in northern San Diego County. That's our plan, so we can get even more accessible. So you make a little bit of effort. We made the effort to be in those places. Come out. We want to help you. I mean, that's the whole thing. We're trying to, like in what we're doing on this show, we're just trying to show you some of these major risks you could run into, and we help you avoid those things. So that's what we try to do when you come to meet with us. Now, when you come, I want you to know that because of the size and the structure and the media that I'm doing with TV and radio, I think we have 10 licensed fiduciary advisors, every single one of them. They're not a fiduciary. I don't hire them. And fiduciary is by license. And you come in and you meet with one of them. And on Monday morning, we sit down with all of those and we go over every single case that's going to be presented in our entire Southern California, on Zoom, wherever we're going to present that case. We go over that case. Each advisor presents his or her case to the entire rest of the group, and we sharpen that. We make sure that it's the right plan for you. So you've got, even though you've got two eyes looking across the table at you from that advisor, you've got 20 plus eyes that are looking at your plan to develop that plan to make sure we're not missing anything and we're putting the best plan on the table for you. So come meet with one of our advisors. They're going to sit down with you. You're going to have a retirement blueprint when you walk out of our meetings.
And that number to call to claim yours is 888-930-5609. We encourage you, don't wait. The team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to be able to meet with you and help build this customized, personalized retirement blueprint for you. You can't call in and say, hey, can you send me one of those blueprint thingies? Because they're not on the shelf. Each advisor will start with you with a blank sheet of paper and build your blueprint from scratch. And Tom, I'm so glad that you highlighted the team approach. It is really awesome to know that so many people are looking at each person's situation and helping to put together the right plan for them. Well, one of the things I know that the entire team is passionate about is helping folks navigate this next risk we're going to talk about. You always say you want people to pay the least amount to the IRS in tax that they are legally required to pay. And tax risk is very real for today's modern retiree. And I think sometimes, Tom, people assume that taxes will go down or they'll be different or, it won't be so much of a problem in retirement. Well, guess what? Taxes will be different, but they're going to bring with them a whole new slew of challenges that you've not previously had to navigate before you retired. So let's talk about that.
Got a lot of people who come in and they sit down across the table and they'll say, I always thought my taxes would be less in retirement, and it seems like they come in different ways. Or they say, we were told to put the money in the 401k and the IRA when we were young, and when you're old and you retire, then your tax rate won't be as high. That's not always the case. Generally, people need just about as much money in retirement as they need in real life before they retire. So let's talk about some of the things that can hit you. When you turn 73 is the age now. And yes, it's been two other ages in the past 5 years, but now it's 73. And I got news for you. In 5 more years, it'll be a different age. They've already passed the law for that, but let's just focus on the age of 73. If you were born in 1952 or later, then you have what's called required minimum distributions this year due in 2025. And you're going to have, that means that whether you need money out of your IRAs or your 401ks, you're going to have to take a certain amount of money out of there and bring it out and pay regular income tax, pushing you many times into a higher tax bracket than you would normally want to be in, but it comes out not as capital gains, but as regular income tax. Now, how do they calculate it? Well, number one, it's a factor. It's never a percentage. You can tell, give your broker a test. If your broker tells you just take 4%, you'll be okay. They don't know what they're talking about. All right. It because it's never a percentage. It's always a life expectancy factor that changes every single year. You have to take it out. You have to take it out during the year. First year, you can delay it till April 1st. If you delay it to April 1st of the following year, when you turn 74, then you got to take 2 out that year. So you got to take out twice as much that year. So there's a gotcha there. If you don't take out the right amount of your IRAs and 401ks, there's a 25% excise, I always call it extra penalty of tax that you have to pay. So, I'm talking about risk, and I'm not giving you much hope here if you don't get a lot of guidance and instructions. One of the things we've done as a group at Mosley Wealth Management is for about 8 years in a row, we've had a retired minimum distribution party every October. It gives us
I love that you do that.
It gives us an excuse to get together for one thing, and every single person that hasn't taken their required minimum distribution by October, we want to get it out because we don't want you to have to pay a penalty. So that's one huge thing when it comes to tax. And here's just, there's all kind of catches. You have 4 IRAs, that's okay. You can add what needs to come out of each of those 4 IRAs and take it all out of one.
Yeah,
but if
you can aggregate them is the term, right?
You can, but if you've got 3 401ks, you cannot do that.
Right.
You've got to take something out of each one of them. Or if you've got a 403b or a 457 and a 401k, you've got to take something out of every 4 plan. So be careful for that. And in retirement, when it comes to taxes, if you're going to have, like we talked about in the first segment about longevity, and, they may be talking about lower income taxes right now. Like there's a bill passed one of the houses of Congress, the House of Representatives, and maybe they'll do away with taxes on Social Security. Currently, you could still get taxed on up to 85% of that benefit at your regular tax rate. You still are up to it until the other House of Congress decides to pass the bill, the president signs it. That might happen right now. But longevity means 10, 15, 20, 25 years. Do you really think a country that's $37 trillion in debt is going to continue to get by lowering income tax? I don't think so. I think there's going to be tax rate increases. And when you start taking money out to spend it in retirement, there's also something else that comes up, Kristen, I got to mention before we end this segment on taxes. There's capital gains taxes.
Yes.
And then there's Medicare surcharge taxes. So, you're doing something over here and you're, Tom, all I'm doing is taking some money out of a brokerage account that's had a lot of capital gains in it over the years. Well, you better be careful because you may be pushing up what you're going to have to pay for Medicare. And you shortly after you retire, you want to go buy a motorhome. That's okay. But if you take the money out of an IRA, you're going to push your income up and you're going to have to pay income tax on that. So you're going to push it up even higher. It's not just what you're going to pay for the motorhome or the fifth wheel or the down payment on the house in Havasu or whatever you're doing. You can do that stuff. But you just got to be careful when it comes to this ticking time bomb of taxes, that what you do in one corner over here doesn't ripple all the way across the pond and shake something up in another area of taxes, whether it be your marginal tax rate, whether it be your capital gains rate, whether it be your Medicare tax, whatever it is, you got to make sure that it all fits together. Well, guess what? When you come in to get a retirement blueprint, we have a software that'll make sure we don't mess that up. As long as you give us the right information as to what you've taken out of each of your accounts that first year, then we can monitor it after that. But as long as you give us the amounts that we're taking out of each one, what we do is we don't tell you what you can and you can't do. But we run this tax software and we put it in front of you and say, okay, we can take it out of here, but it's going to cause these tax ramifications. We can take it out of here and it's going to cause these tax ramifications. You want to know for sure before you mess with taxes that you're not messing up your taxes.
So true, Tom. As we always say, how you make a decision in one area of your financial life can and will affect all the others. That's why you can't afford to make any kind of these decisions in isolation from each other. You have to have someone who's looking at that big picture and the whole picture and all the pieces of your puzzle and making sure they fit together for you. There's no better way for you to see all that information than by getting a complimentary retirement blueprint. And the best part is it's free. So what are you waiting for? Pick up the phone and call and schedule your time to come in and meet with one of the all-star advisors of Mosley Wealth Management and get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609 is the number to call. We'll be back with more right after this.
Social Security is easy, right? The question is, should I take it now or later? Well, there are dozens and dozens of ways to take Social Security if you're single, and even more if you're married. This one-time decision can also affect how much you pay in taxes, how much you receive in lifetime payouts for you and possibly your spouse. You could increase your nest egg by tens of thousands of dollars just by being informed, and unfortunately, the Social Security office is not allowed to give you comprehensive financial planning advice. You've paid into Social Security for decades. Don't you want to make sure you optimize your retirement income? Build your Social Security benefits into a retirement income plan with all of your assets. Get your own tailored, no-cost Social Security income strategy with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. 888-930-5609.
Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management for your complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609. Welcome back. You're listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. And today, Tom and I have been walking through several of the risks that we know today's modern retiree needs to be prepared for. If you're just tuning in and joining us in the last segment, we talked a lot about tax risk. And Tom, you did such a great job of explaining how taxes can be different in retirement, how in fact there's that misconception out there. A lot of people think their taxes will go down, but once they get to retirement, they are quickly discovering that's not the case. They've just simply changed the tax situation, and now it can be compounded and it can become very problematic very quickly. Plus, the rules are always changing, so it's something that we have to pay attention to. I'm curious, I know you talk a lot about helping folks be aware of their potential tax bill in retirement. Talk about what you mean when you say that phrase.
Well, there's the old saying, what you don't know won't hurt you. That is so wrong. What you don't know can kill you financially. And what we've done is we've looked at IRAs and 401ks and the amount of tax that people are going to have to pay on that IRA. I mean, you're talking about a nice gig to get. The government has such a nice gig on your IRA and 401k. You're going to have to pay tax on it every single year when you turn 73. You're going to have to take a certain amount out and pay tax on it. That amount increases as you get older. The percentage or the factor goes in such a way that you have to take more and more and more out every single year and pay tax on it every single year. The goal is for you to pay tax on all of it before you pass away. And so many people, Kristen, say, I don't need it. I don't know why I'm having to take it out. I will tell you, the government needs your taxes, and the plan is built for that way. So what we did is we tried to help you here. And if you really want to look at some specifics, Kristen, I'm going to let you tell them about this website that we've developed. It's called easemytaxbill.com. I'm going to let you tell them about what happens when they go on there, how it works, and just encourage them. And I encourage you, go on there and find out what your tax bill is going to be. You're going to be shocked. Kristen, tell them about it, Kristen.
Yes. Well, I love talking about this because it is so valuable to have this knowledge, to have this awareness, and to have this information. So again, as Tom mentioned, there's a very special site, again, completely complimentary to you to visit and utilize. It's easemytaxbill.com. That's EASE, mytaxbill.com. And I'm going to invite you, if you're not driving right now and you have your smartphone handy, go ahead, pick it up, go to this site, and I'm going to walk you through what you're going to be able to do with this awesome resource. So again, it's completely free. What you're going to do is you'll put in some very basic information there on the landing page, including your name, your current age, your email address so that the report can be sent directly to you. And you're also going to put in how much money you currently have saved up in tax deferred accounts. For you, that could be in a 401k, a traditional 401k, a traditional IRA, things of that nature. You'll put in that amount, and then you'll also notice there are two little sliders there at the bottom that you can adjust and play around with. One is for what tax bracket you think you might be in retirement, or which one you're currently in. You can slide that number around, see the difference. You can also play around with the slider that says assumed growth rate, how much you think that money that you have saved up in those tax deferred accounts will grow. Then once you click submit, you are going to see instantly side by side the difference between the government's tax plan for you if you do nothing versus how much less you could pay in tax there on the right-hand side if you enact some of these tax saving strategies that Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management are so passionate about helping their clients employ. But it doesn't stop there. You're also going to receive a 4-page report that will be directly emailed to you, and it comes to you in a matter of minutes. It'll show you your numbers, break that down. And Tom, you know I love saying this a lot when we talk about this awesome tool, but once folks see those numbers and once they see that difference, you can't unsee it. And folks are definitely motivated to reach out, get that complimentary retirement blueprint and say, help, right? I know folks have actually even come in with that report in their hand and handed it to your team and said, okay, how do I fix this problem?
Exactly. And you told them how they pay for it, right?
It's free.
Yes, exactly right.
No cost, no charge, no obligation. I mean, it's such a valuable resource. And I love that, previously this was only available to existing clients of Mosley Wealth Management, but you felt so strongly about the importance of having this knowledge and having this awareness. That's why we want to share it with all of our radio listeners and television viewers as well.
And there was a little bit of a debate within myself on that, because we've helped so many people with that 𝗠𝗷𝗁𝗲𝗄𝗏.com that you just described. And I guess if you're going to have a lazy broker and a lazy advisor, you can go get that report and take it to them and say, here, can you help? But we'd be more than happy to help you, for you to come to us and us to work with you if you would like. We're the ones that bring it up. We're the ones that put the thing together. We'd love to work with you to help solve your problem.
Yep. And it's a huge problem if it's left unattended and not paid attention to. So again, we invite you to visit easemytaxbill.com. Again, it doesn't take you very long. You'll put in that basic information. You'll be able to see those numbers for yourself. And then you can actually have even more of a conversation in depth once you know that information with the team of Mosley Wealth Management when you come in for that complimentary retirement blueprint. And that number to call is 888-930-5609. Well, Tom, another risk we need to talk about before we close today's show. It's at the top of most folks' minds. We touched on this earlier when we were talking about longevity and life expectancy risks. It's healthcare and long-term care risk. This is a huge one that keeps a lot of folks up at night.
Well, I wanted to bring it back up here in this last segment because, yes, we did touch on it, and longevity causes it to become more and more and more of an issue. But I want to point out some things that a lot of people that are not in retirement don't understand, and that is the gaps. Okay, because there are gaps in a lot of Medicare coverage. Now, there forever has been a prescription drug gap, and they're trying to close that and trying to get that down. But you reach a period with your prescription drugs where you're paying a lot more for your drugs, almost 100%, for a gap period before that extensive coverage kicks in that covers everything after that amount. There's also a gap in that many of the people in retirement, and I know you're going to be inundated with people if you ever get out there and ask for dental coverage or vision coverage in the period of time when you've got Medicare. But a lot of times the people that I deal with, and I've done this 30 years, Kristen, it's not like I just started, but they're just, you're so used to that wraparound great dental coverage that you've had or vision vision coverage that you've had, maybe through a group employer. Most people get to Medicare and they're not happy with the coverage they get from dental or vision. Now, I'm of the persuasion of Medicare. I'll just say it that way, okay? And even though I would make a premium on it, I would make a commission on it, I do not cover for myself dental insurance because the cost of the dental insurance is almost as much as you could spend out if you do the maximum every single year. So I did the numbers and I said, wow, I'd have to spend the maximum to get that. And I jokingly say, but sometimes true, that Medicare doesn't really care about the things that wear out. Your feet, podiatry is sometimes not covered super well. Dental coverage, vision coverage.
Yeah, I was going to say eyes. That's the one I'm currently struggling with in my mid-40s here.
And guess what, Kristen? It's not going to get likely any better. Your hearing, and then we move into long-term care. Just the idea that, yes, if you go into the hospital and you've got Medicare and you broke a shoulder, they'll put you in a rehab hospital. But that's like 21 days normally, maybe 100 extra days for your life. But that custodial care that you could run into, they don't cover that. That care, if you have a stroke, you're not able, or your spouse is not able to help you get around, do the things you need to do. And here's the thing that you need to look out for when it comes to healthcare. There was a study done by the Employee Benefits Research Institute, and it showed that 50% of the people intended to retire by the age of 66, but 77% had actually retired by that time. And the biggest one factor was their health. They lost their health in some kind of illness. Something, you may not have control of all of the knobs and the bells and the whistles when it comes to your retirement. You may be forced to retire early, and healthcare is the biggest reason for that to happen. Listen, I love teaching. I love doing this. Our whole goal is to try to help you. It's the reason we have seminars. Go to our website and look at our seminar tab. We've got over 100 Social Security workshops this year scheduled. You'll see the next couple of 3 months that are there on our website. Sign up for one of them. All of those are free. Our retirement blueprints are free. The easemytaxbill.com is free. We are here to help you. And by the way, we help far more people than we ever get paid off of and then we ever earn an income off of, because we're here to help you. But we'd like you to keep in mind, if you want somebody to sit down with you and give you a written plan in your hand that will go over your retirement income so that that longevity issue is not there, so that the inflation issue is taken care of, so that the second segment we talked about investments, so that you know where your investments are, their risk, your risk tolerance, and your risk capacity, that your taxes are taken care of, that your health care is addressed, and that your legacy is there. Those 6 things are the things we talk about, address, and give you a written plan. But to get your retirement blueprint, you've got to make a phone call.
Yes, and that number to call is 888-930-5609. Again, 888-930-5609. Or as Tom mentioned, we also invite you to visit us online at mosleywealthmanagement.com. That's MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. That's all the time we have for this weekend, but thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Be safe, be happy, be blessed, and we look forward to being back with you next time here on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley.
Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.